hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Rules Podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Rules Podcast. Mike here. Really excited to bring you this episode this week. We kind of teased it last week. Spring is right around the corner, and of course, we always start to think about turkey hunting this time of year. And, you know, one of the things that I really love about doing the podcast is it's given me an excuse sometimes to reach out to people that I maybe otherwise wouldn't reach out to. And a handful of years ago, actually right when I moved to New Mexico, a friend here who's also from Pennsylvania turned me on to a small turkey call company back east, kind of out in New York and Pennsylvania, called Mountain Hollow Game Calls. And a few weeks back, I reached out to them and got an almost instantaneous response, which was great, and chatted with them. And they agreed to come on the podcast, which I'm super excited about. So I'm going to kick it over to you guys. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Cressley. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you reaching out, and we're probably more excited than you are to be on the podcast. It's great. So you sent me a relatively annoying video the other day of turkeys gobbling. Like, I don't even know how many of them. I didn't appreciate that.
I don't know anything about fancy audio, but do you want to hear it?
I do want to hear it.
I queued it up in the soundboard. Here it goes.
Yep, that's an amazing sound.
That's what we live for, right there.
Yeah.
There's probably more gobblers gobbling that roost right there than I'll hear all season, so that's wonderful.
I don't know how many birds that was. My boy and I, it was right along the San Juan River, and my older boy were out fishing and watched those birds fly up in the evening, and they gobbled a little bit, but then I went out in the morning and took a little video of it. Man, it felt like there were 8 or 10 different birds gobbling there.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're going to need some coordinates, Mike, if you don't mind. You just let us know.
If I could hunt that one, man, I'd really have something. Go ahead, Adam. Introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. My name's Adam Brewer. I've actually been working with Jeremy for quite a while. Actually got him into Mountain Hollow. Him and I actually from the same town. Knew each other, a little bit here and there, and then honestly, he came up to me. He just looked like this sad, lonely guy that needed a turkey call, and I decided to sell him a turkey call. And next thing you know, we started talking, and next thing you know, he's part of the company, and over the years, we've become really good friends. So it's been awesome. But this is, it's just something that we both love to do, and just a passion of ours. So thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. So, Jeremy, kick us off with a little bit about the company, where you guys are at physically and kind of how big you are and all that stuff.
Yeah, so we've been in business for 44 years, which is Ken. There's only been 2 other owners, Ken and a guy by the name of Ronnie Johnson. Ken bought it from him. I'm not sure how many years ago, but Ken's probably owned the company for 33, 34, 35 years. He's owned it for quite a while. And just recently, January 1 this year, I purchased the company, so that's exciting. So that's a cool thing that's going on. Ken and I have been talking about it for a couple years, and our demographic mainly, over the 33 or 44 years that it's been in business has been like the New England states, mainly Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, kind of like that Northeast. We have a really good following up in the Northeast part of the country. And something we've been talking about over the last couple of years is that everybody's been talking about is using social media to grow and expand our reach. And I just got off the phone the other day with a lady from Florida, an NWTF chapter down there. She buys stuff from us, and we just had an order from Arizona. So the NWTF is a really cool thing, our relationship with them. We're prioritizing that. So they stand for conservation and the turkey population, and that's something that we want to be a part of. So, we have a couple outdoor shows coming up. One coming up. We just went to Nashville for the NWTF. Just went to Harrisburg for the Great American Outdoor Show. I'm pretty sure we're the oldest game call company at that show. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a fun fact for you. And as you know, Mike, you've been using our product, and the foundation of Mountain Hollow is pretty cool, and it goes back a long time. So that was one of the main things when it come time for me to purchase the company, and then my relationship with Ken. It definitely wasn't starting from ground zero. So I gotta thank Ronnie, and I gotta thank Ken for everything they've done over the years, and here's to the future moving forward.
Yeah, congratulations
that's where we're at.
On purchasing the company. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're right. The friend that I was talking about, he's actually from Western Pennsylvania, where you are. But he was buying the calls at the Harrisburg show, which I grew up going to as a kid. It was a annual pilgrimage, but not too far for us, probably 30 minutes from where I grew up there in South Central Pennsylvania. And he was like, oh man, I always buy calls from these guys. They run great show specials. So kind of where I load up and where he, hooked up with you all and he mentioned it to me, and I looked you guys up and bought a couple of calls and killed a couple of birds that year, and pretty much been using your stuff almost exclusively ever since. So it's a great product, and I totally came to it organically. But the first bird I killed in New Mexico, I killed with the call is a GF gobbler getter. Does that sound right?
As long as it's white.
Yeah.
That's the right one.
Yeah.
And the last one I called with one of your box calls towards the end of last season. So, so you mentioned Ken. That's Ken Hamill. He's the recently previous owner, and he's kind of been, through your social media and videos and stuff. I was assuming that he was still the owner when I reached out to you a couple weeks ago. He's based in New York. Is that right?
Yeah, he's out of Potsdam, New York, and the company's been based out of there for as long as I've been around. And Adam's been around longer than me, which is kind of crazy to think. But I think Adam, he's been there. How long has he been up there? It's been
since I've been with the company probably, I want to say 15, 16 years now. So, he's at least that long and more.
And you're out of Corey, Pennsylvania, is that right, Jeremy?
I'm from Corey, Pennsylvania. That's where Adam currently lives. I currently live in Bradford, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's kind of funny. So Adam mentioned the lonely kid at the outdoor show needing a friend, and Adam and I've always used, just like you, Mike. I've always used Mountain Hollow stuff. I mean, growing up as a kid, there was a couple of different brands that you used, but when it came time to really settling on a game call, I used Mountain Hollow. I went to the booth, and Adam, I forgot, I can't remember how long it's been now, maybe 6 or 7 years. He goes, hey, we need to add staff, and are you interested? And the conversation was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know if I'm interested or not. It's kind of just like an out of the blue thing. And Ken goes, all right, well, if you're interested and you want to give it a shot, come to the Hamburg show. And I was like, well, when is that? And at the time, we were in Erie, Pennsylvania. They used to have an outdoor show in Erie. I think they still do. I think it's more of like a camping and RV and like a recreational show. But I asked him when the Hamburg show was, and he goes, it's next weekend. And this was, like I said, it was 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm like, okay, I'll see you there, I guess. So, and that's where it all started. So that's kind of a cool little story.
Yeah, you never know. You never know
No,
where
you
a
don't.
conversation will go. That's for sure.
No.
And where do you guys run manufacturing out of? Where are the calls actually made?
So we have a couple different companies that send us the components of each call, and then he's putting it together, most of the stuff, out of his house. So we don't have like a shop or a storefront or anything like that. We do most of our sales online and direct to consumer, like stores and through Facebook type stuff. So you can find us on Amazon. I think we're on Etsy too. Or not Amazon, excuse me. We used to be on Amazon. We're on Etsy and then our website, and then you can look us up on Facebook.
But it's really truly a small business.
Yeah, yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it's a smaller business for sure. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, for sure.
And kind of what are your roles like, Adam or Jeremy, kind of like what do you do? What's the work?
So I can I'll let Adam chime in here a little bit too. So what happens now is we order parts, and really, Ken, there's a wood shop, there's a mouth call guy, and there's Ken, and then we have people that like clothing, So that's the four things: apparel, game calls, and then Ken putting them together. And there aren't employees, when you say it's truly a small business, Ken is the guy, and Ken has been the guy for 35 years. So, and then I'll let Adam chime in here. We have a pro staff and a field staff. The pro staff, there's like 30 guys, and the field staff is something that Adam's been a huge part of. Probably 30 to 40 guys on that too. So, Adam, why don't you go ahead and just talk about the field staff for a little bit? You just did something cool with that here a month or two ago.
Yeah, sure. So, over the years when we go to these shows, you kind of build a following, and we usually try to go to the shows that are in our areas, so we have staffers kind of placed in areas around, where we live and where our shows are. And over the years, we've become friends with a lot of those guys, and, we've gotten friends through friends that have, like joined the pro staff team, and some guys have come and gone, and some guys have stuck around for a very, very long time. I kind of feel like I'm a lifer. I would definitely stay and be a part of this because I just love it. And now that Jeremy's got it, like, he probably won't let me leave. So,
No.
just joking. But
Everybody's locked in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're all locked in. The ones who could stay, we had to stay, and we had to. So, but we decided to, like, in my role, I guess I've kind of done a few things, but a lot of our pro staff guys are guys that actually go to the shows. They're the ones running the calls for people. We do a lot of our main focus is in turkey calls right now, and we do a lot of shows where people come up to us and they're like, "Hey, I'd like to hear that call," and we have guys behind the scenes that run the calls and just kind of talk to people, make friendships, sell them. I mean, none of our guys are paid. We don't get paid for this. We do this because we love it. And I've been around for quite some time now doing this, and I've actually been involved with Mountain Hollow since I was a kid, and I can honestly say that I've never used any other turkey calls besides Mountain Hollow. When I was a kid, they would come up to the Erie Outdoor Show. And Ken, was a young guy then, and a couple of the older guys that we have on staff were, like my age now, and they were working the shows. And honestly, I would go up as a kid and I'd buy one mouth call because they were cheap at the time, and I could talk to these guys, and I just idolized them. I just thought it was so awesome that they got to do this. And as a kid, you're like, oh, I just want to be a hunter like you guys, and I'd love to be able to sell calls and run calls. And when I was, that's kind of how I got started. I was 12 years old, I was 13 years old, and a guy took me out turkey hunting, a friend of my stepfather's. And we both shot birds with 10-inch beards, and he called them into 17 steps away with a mouth call, and there was 5 of them. We both shot at the same time, and I was, absolutely hooked. And I said, next year, I am gonna learn how to use a mouth call. Like, I was dead set. I wanted to be just like this guy, and by golly, if I didn't learn how to do it, and I called in a bird when I was 14 on state game lands, and I shot it. And ever since then, I was hooked with a mouth call, and I would run these calls, and honestly, I'd go up to Erie, and I would just fill my pockets, and I'd ask these guys, like, what's your favorite call? What do you like? And they'd run them. I'd make them run every single one of them for me, and I would gather up as many as I could, and this went on for years and years and years. I would go and I would ask and go and talk to them, and and they see thousands of people. We see thousands of people a year, coming through the shows, and I knew that they didn't really remember me, maybe here and there, and finally, when I was out of college, I actually went to guide school, and the guide school asked me to come back to Harrisburg. That's where I kind of saw it, was at the Harrisburg Outdoor Show, and talk about the guide school for people else that would like to sign up. And so I was there, and I would sneak away from the guide school and go to the Mountain Hollow booth and talk turkey and talk turkey and talk turkey. And then eventually, one of the guys who's on our staff, who's been Ken's right hand man, Jerry Foster's like, I think I annoyed him enough that he was like, "Do you want to actually do this?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I've been waiting my whole life for this moment, you know?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes," you know, and it's been history ever since. I started the Erie show, and I literally went from full circle from a kid to a guy working with this company and been with them ever since. So I've literally known Mountain Hollow my whole life, for as far as I can remember. And that's literally the only calls I've ever used. So they work, they're awesome, and it's been awesome. And we've kind of tried to branch out to now to build a field staff team, because we know not everyone can have the time off to go to the shows and put in the time that needed to run the shows. So, but we also have made good friends over the year that come to the booths, and you see them religiously every year. They're coming, and you hear it all the time. We came here just for you guys. We're only here just for you guys, and it's like, it's awesome feeling. But then we started, hey, you guys would like to be a part of the field staff, and then the field staff's more of a, you're out there in the field, you're using our calls, and you're telling people, and you're kind of sharing and promoting our calls and helping us out. And there's benefits to the being a part of the field staff as well. So we're always looking for, people who would like to reap some benefits as being a field staff member, but also in return help our company grow. So it's been quite a thing, and we've got some great guys on our field staff team that are, they're out there every day trying, promoting, hunting, and telling people about our calls, and it's been really good.
Nice. Yeah, the calls must work if you call the turkey in on state game lands in Pennsylvania. I feel like that's of the pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, if you can do that's, I think what we should do is put the calls to the test. And maybe there should be a guy out there making YouTube videos like, here I am, I'm going to put this call to the test. If we can do it in state game lands, then you're something. You've done something.
I definitely want to get into that a little bit, and east versus west turkey hunting and all of your experiences with that, but not to spoil it, hunting anything on public land in a place like Pennsylvania, I think is just about as hard as it gets. That
you want to put yourself to the test.
Yeah, that's the truth. Jeremy, what about you? Where'd you get started in turkey hunting?
So it's I feel like it's the same exact story, but a little bit different, right? Which I can appreciate. And I was talking to you a little bit, and you were telling me how this is a family-run podcast, and your whole family has hunted, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have been hunting your whole lives, which is awesome.
Yep.
Turkey hunting for me was pretty much my dad taking me out, and just like Adam's story, I don't remember a whole lot of the details, but sit down next to your tree with your father, and he calls in the turkey, and it's like, this thing is gobbling, and it's like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. And then you kill one, and literally, I hate to be cliche about it, but that's what it's all about. And it's been for me. I'm 36 now, so it's been 25 years this spring hunting turkeys, all because my dad took me out, and that's what happened. So it's just amazing. It's an incredible experience for people. My wife she doesn't even hunt, but you get stuck inside all winter up here in Pennsylvania. You guys know what that's like, and she'll go for a walk with me. We'll go out here soon in April. We'll go to places we've never been, and she even likes when turkeys gobble and they come in. It's just a cool thing. It's a really cool thing, and deer don't make that noise, and nothing else around here does either. So it's a pretty cool experience for people.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about turkey hunting, and similar to elk hunting here, it's an opportunity to interact with animals in a way that that you don't often get to do. And obviously, you guys as call makers, and not just for turkeys, but you get that, and as you mentioned, grew up doing all kinds of hunting whitetails back east all my life, and I've occasionally grunted a deer in, but it's just not the same. The amount of interaction that you get with a turkey, it is just so amazing, I think. And, and it's just such a unique experience to get the opportunity to talk with them,
and for me, it starts several hundred yards away, like you're not communicating, at least not that you're aware of. You're not communicating with this deer several hundred
Right.
yards away up on an opposite ridge. It's you hit that box call and it's like that, and then it starts. I mean, that's the beginning of it. It's
game
definitely
on.
a different type of interaction for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess to get into that a little bit, you guys kind of mentioned a couple of calls, but for folks that are listening that don't do a lot of turkey hunting, run through the types of calls that you make and how they work.
So we'll that's a good question, Mike. That's a good point. So we have two different types of mouth calls. We have a latex mouth call series and a prophylactic mouth call series. And we tell people all the time, your mouth calls, prophylactic, there's a reed or two that are thinner than latex. So when we describe it to a customer, or whether it's a beginner or somebody who's never used one, it just comes down to how easy it is to make the sound and the amount of air required. So when you get into that Pro series, it's a lot easier. It doesn't seem like a whole lot. I think it's thousandths of an inch on thickness. But when it comes time to running one, if you put a 3-reed latex call in versus a 3-reed prof call, you'll definitely notice a difference for sure, especially if you've used latex your whole life. And then we have box calls, friction calls, owl hooters, crow calls. Those are your locator calls, your crow call and your owl call. We got a handful of box calls and a handful of slate glass friction calls. We have right here, if I can find one for you here
Some
real
push
quick.
buttons.
Oh yeah, push buttons.
We got
Thank
some
you, Adam.
push buttons. Yep.
Yeah,
So this
it's
is
funny. I was talking to my dad about you guys, and he said, "Do they make a push button call?" That's my dad. My dad's real old school. He's got a Quaker Boy push button
Yep.
call that he inherited from his dad. That it's still what he carries other types of calls, but that's what he uses 90% of the time. I said, I don't think they do, and he kind of like, well, I don't know.
We actually
And
have
I went on the website
Yeah.
and looked, and I was like, oh shoot, Dad, I called him back. I'm like, they do, they make them.
And
I
shame
thought
on
he might
me.
show up at your booth at Harrisburg and tell you needed to make a push button call, so I had to make sure I set him straight.
And we sell a lot of those things too. You'd be surprised how many we actually sell.
Yeah, I believe it.
It is crazy how many we sell.
do.
And shame on me for forgetting that, because we do. There's 3 different types of wood, as you just mentioned, Mike, and just there's a variety. This is one. I have one right here. I don't know if we can really see it or not. I think we can. This is a double talk extreme. We have 4 of these. The back there you can use as a slate side. So this is a double-sided friction call. We have 3 other ones that have a wooden pot. They're called Double Talk Legends. And that's been kind of our bread and butter over the last several years, is a double-sided friction call with glass on top and slate on the bottom. It's a really cool concept. A lot of customers like it. When they come to the booth, they start running the friction calls and we point them to the direction of the double-sided ones, and they like the idea of 2 for 1. You can be pretty loud on the glass, and you can flip it over and do your tree yelps, your purrs, your soft clucks. It's an interesting call. It's one of our favorites for sure. I would be willing to bet that every pro staffer of ours has at least one of them in their vest, whether that's a wooden one or the extreme.
Yeah. And those, for anybody that's listening and not watching this one on YouTube, those friction calls that you're talking about are we used to call them a slate call, because they were almost all made out of slate when they started being made, and it's basically a disc, right?
Yep.
Yep. And the wooden ones are in a wooden pot. Your double talk is 2-sided, like you're saying, and then you have a striker, which kind of looks like a pencil if you're imagining this in your head, and you're essentially drawing that striker across the surface of that call, and it makes a turkey noise.
Yep, that's correct.
And then the box calls we were talking about, we talked about a push button call, which literally is kind of like a rectangular box that's got a button that comes out the end that you push a button, and that's how you make the call. And then your other box calls they basically have kind of a paddle shaped striker on top. Is that?
Yep, you're taking a paddle and you're dragging it across a box that you're holding in your hand to to yelp, cluck. You can purr on those. It's a little bit harder to purr on a box call. It takes a little bit of feeling it out, but
Yeah.
just another type of call. Yeah.
It's kind of amazing to me. One of the things that also strikes me about turkey hunting and turkey calling is I am not musical at all. I got zero genes in the music family. But there is kind of a musicality to the whole thing, both in terms of, the different types of calls, and then the practice that goes into it, trying to make the right noises and not make the wrong ones. It's, again, it's just I think it's a really interesting and unique kind of thing with this kind of hunting.
Yeah, and the only way to know what works is just go out and do it.
Right.
You can sit there and talk about it all you want, but making one gobble is the best education out there. And if you make one gobble, I guarantee you're going to say, "Oh, this worked. This worked the other day. I'm going to do it again." And then,
Yeah.
that's gonna.
I want to get into that. So to kind of lead into that, because there's something I really want to talk about there. To lead into that, if you are talking to a brand new turkey hunter, and they say, I've never done this before. I don't know what's going to work for me. I want to buy 3 calls. Where are you going to point them? What are you going to tell them to buy?
So, Adam, when someone comes to the booth next weekend in Hamburg, what are you going to tell them? Because this is something that happens all the time.
Well, it does. It happens. First and foremost, I ask for how much practice, or do you have any knowledge at all about any turkey calls whatsoever? And we've got guys who I've been trying to do it for years and haven't really done it, and I have guys that never have done it. My kid wants to start hunting, so basically what I do is always just take them through every call. I'm like, let me go through the options with you. Not each specific call, but like, here's what mouth calls do. I talk about mouth calls and the importance of, if you're really going to get into turkey hunting, it's really, it's one of the best ways to go hands free, to be motionless, right? So, but it's obviously one of your hardest calls to master. For some people, you're gonna work up to that one, right? So I usually try to start them right at the push buttons and say, well, your experience level, how much experience you have. Here's one you can push a button and make the sound, and you get away with a lot of movement or with very little movement on a push button. You're pushing your finger, you can hold it down by your leg. If you can get a turkey that's interested in that, and you're able to run that with some little bit of practice, you're golden, right? And then I also try to talk to them about, now, we have our box calls. You're taking this, and I try to show them like how to hold the call, how I hold the call, let them practice with it, and then obviously go into the friction calls and show them like, hey, like one of the things that I always do is I always like to recommend like a double-sided friction call for new people, because basically you have 2 different sounds of 2 different birds. You flip it over, your slate, it's going to be a little bit more hollow sounding to it, and your glass, you flip it over, it's going to be more high-pitched. So you've got 2 birds with one call, basically, 2 different sounds. And we actually run package deals on that. Like, if you buy, like a friction call, you can get a mouth call and practice, and I always tell people the best place to practice mouth calling is in your vehicle on your way to work. You can be as annoying as you want. No one's going to be there to yell at you. Like I carry my mouth calls in my truck, and I literally just pop them in when I'm driving. I'm alone, and I yelp and I call, and
it's
that's
the way
that's how
I get
my
kids
practice
away from me.
right.
Yeah.
Right. I can't do it at home. My wife.
One of the few things I can do that chases my kids away.
Yeah, my wife's like, absolutely not. Like, get outside, take it in your truck. So that's what I do. And I actually just had them in my mouth the other day. I was just pulled them out. Like, I better dust them off, get ready. I was messing with them and stuff. I love that sound. So really, I try to focus them in. Number 1, find out their experience level. Number 2, focus them in on what they're going to find easy, and because you want it to be easy at first, because you want success. And if it's not as easy and you're not getting any success, they're more likely to throw it down, and that's not really hunt, right? And we don't want that. So and that's what's nice about going to the shows that I really like, is because you are physically able to help people. It's not like they're at a store looking at a display of calls going, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. You come to these shows that we're in, and we literally have, I don't, and Jeremy can attest to this, how many people come to our booth and go, get on their phone immediately, and they're like, look, last year I bought this call from you guys, and I killed this bird, and they're lifers. You've made a friend, and you've got people, and that's one thing that I've always loved about Mountain Hollow was the guys that are doing it. That they love it, it's their passion, and they're willing to help you out. And as a kid, that meant so much to me. As a kid, seeing these guys that I idolized, who took time out of their day to help me and teach me some things, and were willing to do it. I just thought that was the coolest thing, and I loved them from the get-go. And honestly, one of our guys, his name's Jim Joint. He lives in South Dakota, and we don't get to see him much anymore because he used to come to the Erie show. And now that we're not up at Erie, we don't get to see him as much. But I mean, the amount of run-ins that I've had with Jim over my life, from landscaping across the road from his house, to realizing he works for Mountain Hollow, to working with him at Mountain Hollow, to like going to his bear camp, and just like, my goodness, how many connections. And when he shows up, I couldn't even tell you how many people have come up to us and said, where's Jimmy? Do you know Jim Joint? Do you know Jim Joint? Because of his experience of being in Mountain Hollow and just helping so many people. And that's really, that was awesome. That's what we do. And so, like, when people come up to the booth, we've made lifelong friends, and Jeremy can attest to this too. There's people who literally come back and look for, like, if Jeremy helped this guy out, he's like, where's Jeremy? Is Jeremy here? And I'm like, yeah, he's over here. Same thing. They'll come up and they'll say, hey, where's Adam? Is Adam here? Asking Jeremy. He's like, yep, he's over there. And we'll spend, sometimes you're like, it's been a half hour. I really need to help another customer. But we're talking stories and just like how much success they had. And when you can do that, that's just an awesome feeling. That's why we do it. I go to the shows just so that I can meet new people, hear the stories from the people that I know and that I've seen regularly, and make good friends. I can't tell you how many good friends we've made over the years at these shows. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah. I feel like it's easy to bond really quickly over turkey hunting. It's one of those things we all speak a common language.
Just hunting in general, the stories that you can tell each other that go back and forth. It's just, it's... Yeah, I know why the caveman sat around and painted pictures about it, because it's been since the dawn of time.
Right. Yeah. So in those calls, what about somebody with more experience? What are the 3 calls you're going to tell somebody with more experience that Mountain Hollow makes? They're new to you guys. What are you recommending?
Yeah. So if an avid turkey hunter's coming to the, go ahead. Go ahead, Adam.
No, I was just gonna say that the one thing that I tell people who are experienced, because we get a lot of calls. Like, people are like, why do I need this many calls? Like, why do you make 7 or 8 different box calls, and why do you make 15 mouth calls? And the best thing I can tell people is, like, if we were all three of us were looking at a girl, and one of us thought she was good looking, the other 2 didn't. That's just the way turkey hunting is. You have so many times where you use a call and that bird doesn't answer, it doesn't strike him up, and then you bust out a different call, and then boom, he's on fire. It's like, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I am enjoying, or I like. And so for experienced turkey hunters, I'm always like, what sound do you like? I always start there. Like, what kind of sound do you like? Because there's raspy and there's high pitch, and you get a lot of older guys who like the raspy call, like an older hen. So we kind of lead them then to certain spots. Like, well, we sell a Purple Heart mahogany box call, and it's one of the raspier ones that we have, and that's the one I use. That's the one I really, really like. And guys can play the call, hear the call, not just buy the call, but actually get to physically use the call, find the sound that they like, and then if they want to make a purchase or something like that, then they're happy because they feel comfortable with what they have. So I always, with guys with experience, we start there. I say, hey, what kind of sound do you like? And then explain to other people, like, this is the reason why my turkey vest, when I'm walking in the woods, it jingles and makes noise and calls are falling out of my pockets, because I'm always trying different stuff. I'm always trying new things. Or this call, when it comes to mouth calls, we go with the cut. Different cuts in the call makes different sounds, different pitches. The more reeds you have, the more hollow it sounds compared to a high-pitched young hen with less reeds. So we always push them in directions of, what kind of sound do you like, what kind of cut do you like. There are certain cuts that I don't run near as good compared to other cuts, and I ask guys about that as well.
Yeah, I'm older probably than both of you guys, but when I was a kid, there was a Dan Aykroyd movie called Spies Like Us. It was a Cold War spoof movie, and they're walking around in Russia with like a giant coat on and just all this gear dangling and jingling and banging inside their coats. And that's how I always feel when I got my turkey vest. I'll find stuff I've lost for 2-3 years in there. Like, oh, that's where I forgot I even had that pocket in this. It's a real gear intensive kind of thing, and you really can get crazy with all the calls.
It's like a trout fisherman's vest,
Yeah.
It's got stuff in all directions.
Exactly.
It's like you're going to war. It's
Yeah. Except you can't find any of the stuff you actually need.
Right.
How much do you think confidence plays a role in people's success with calls? And I got a couple stories in this vein, and I mentioned that the last bird that we killed last year, I called him with a box call. I have had very little success since I've moved to New Mexico. Well, really in my life, I've had very little success with a box call. I've carried one of yours for years and years, and going into last season, I was like, I don't know if I've ever gotten a bird to respond to this. And I kept it in my vest. It's real loud. It's your loudest box call. And my dad had one day to hunt, and he was out here, and we ended up on a ridge, and it was real windy. And I was like, well, I haven't done anything else at work today. Get the box call out. Got the box call out and yelped a half a dozen times with it, and a bird answered. And basically, in the amount of time it took us to get set up, that bird ran in. Unfortunately, we never actually got a crack at him, but called him in. And then from there on, last season, I used the box call a ton and ended up having great success with it. And I guess I feel a little bit like it was probably never the call, and it was probably almost always my level of confidence in it. And the more confidence that you gain in something, the more that it's kind of the same with fishing lures sometimes. Do you feel like that's part of the story with calls?
So I have an interesting story on that, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up, because so I used to use the Purple Heart box call that Adam's talking about, and I hunt with my dad and my brother every year, right? And I'm talking maybe 5 years ago ish. I'm running the Purple Heart box call, which is raspier, and my brother has a Cherry Poplar box call, which is a higher pitched. I think maybe it travels better because of the pitch, and he's literally standing next to me. We're struggling, right? And I'm calling, because that's what I do when I hunt with them. They just I pull out one of them trout lures and just keep on ripping on things, right?
Right.
Aaron pulls out his box call and
something else.
Yeah. Aaron pulls out his box call and runs it, and the bird gobbles, and we're hunting, and it's like, geez. So it's crazy. I think so. Over the last couple of years, I was just talking to Uriah about this too. It's maybe knowing what sound you're looking for and being able to create it, and also maybe understanding what trips that turkey's trigger. And it's definitely not all the same from bird to bird, but I think, this is just me talking on experience here, I really think that there is something to that high pitched like of a box call and that front end note that I think a lot of turkeys like. And I think it's when you listen to like guys that are calling competitively, or I was listening to some calls at the shows over the weekend from some other turkey call companies out there. A guy that we're going hunting with here in a couple of weeks, we're going to Florida with Eddie Salter. He has a metal box call, and even when I listen to a hen yelp, now that we're more experienced, there's this front end note all the time that they hit most of the time. It's that higher pitch into a yelp, and I think there's something to that pitch. And again, this is just me talking. I have no proof of this other than my own experience. But it's just finding that sound that you want to create, and then obviously when you get turkeys to answer you, that's like if you're running a mouth call and a turkey answers you, you're not going to put the mouth call away, right? If you're running a box call and a turkey answers you, you're not going to put the box call away until you have to. So I think as you turkey hunt and you do it for a long time, which fortunately all three of us have been able to, you hone in on these sounds that they make. You go from just wanting to make a sound on a turkey call to what is a turkey looking for? What sound is it really looking for? And then trying to, just like anything else, trying to be more versatile with whatever call you choose. And that's where your confidence level comes in. Ultimately, it's knowing that if you screw up if you make a bad sound or you hit a bad note, it's probably not going to be the end of the day. Like you're still okay. And I think that's where the confidence level comes in, is don't be afraid to try stuff. That's ultimately how you build that confidence.
Absolutely. And get out and do it, right? I mean, you got to get out and you got to experience it. You got to get out there and see weird things. You got to see hens yelping and go, my goodness, she sounds terrible. Like, I thought I sounded good, but maybe like I've had hens come through and you're just like, is that a guy? Like, is that another hunter coming through the woods? Yeah. Like, it sounds terrible. And here comes this old hen just yap, 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 yap. You're like, oh my gosh, like, maybe I actually sound bad and I thought I sounded good. I don't know,
Right.
Yeah, you brought up
You
brought up something, Mike, that I don't want to take over here by any stretch. But you talked about hunting west, east, north, and south as far as the country goes. Where were you going with that? That was very interesting to me. You mentioned that earlier.
Well, I'm just curious. I know that you guys have probably hunted all over the country, much more so than me. I kind of marched across the country a little bit. Pennsylvania and then Kentucky and then Montana for about a decade before we moved down here. And, I've maybe noticed a few things. Obviously, big differences, I think, between Merriam's turkeys and Easterns. And for the listeners, there's 4 major subspecies of turkeys in North America and then a 5th subspecies that's much less common. So back east, basically east of the Mississippi, of Easterns, all north to south, right?
Yep, that's correct. All the way to Florida, yep.
And then there's a minor subspecies in South Florida called Osceolas. And then once you start getting west of the Mississippi, there are Rios or Rio Grande turkeys kind of up and down the Rio Grande Basin and, states like Oklahoma, Texas. We have some here in New Mexico. And then the kind of western mountain birds are a subspecies called Merriam's. And then down on the very southern border and into Mexico, there are Gould's turkeys. So turkey biology is pretty cool. And then those wild birds there's a lot of places, like Montana is a good example, where there's been a bunch of different introductions of wild turkeys, some Easterns and some Merriam's, and who knows, probably some Rios at some point too, but kind of all mixed up. And there probably is some difference in behavior. What do you guys think of that? Like, with the subspecies, do you feel like there's major differences? Do you approach them differently from a hunting standpoint?
So something that I've been lucky enough to go with Ken west the last couple years, and we went to Colorado, Montana, Oregon, California. So those are the 4 states, and Kansas was in there too. But Kansas was private land. We were fortunate enough to have private land there, so I'm going to stick with public. But the main thing that I've noticed from Pennsylvania, and just thinking about like New York, PA, we've been to North Carolina, versus the western states is the amount of pressure, predators considering human beings being a predator, and I'm gonna say maybe like when we just went out west to Oregon last year, that was the first Walmart I had ever been in that they didn't sell turkey calls. So we went there looking for it just because, right? Because we ran into some people that were hunting and they were using single or double reed elk calls to call turkeys in.
Right.
You know, and when you go to like Pennsylvania and all the way down to Florida and all the way to the Mississippi, we're all using turkey calls. I mean, it is a different breed, especially, turkey hunting started, Mississippi, down in those southern states. Alabama's a big one. Georgia, the Carolinas are big. And the further you go from the, southeast to northwest, it's definitely not as popular. And I think you're going to go in any Walmart from here to Florida and find a turkey call. I almost guarantee it. So I think that's the big thing for me is just we saw turkey hunters out there, but nobody's running a ghost cut or a batwing cut or a V cut. It's not a turkey call. A lot of those guys I think are just kind of do it because it's nice outside and it's turkey season.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest differences.
I think kind of to that point, I think we say like, oh, Merriam's gobble a lot more than Easterns. And I think they do, but I don't know that that's about the bird as much as it's about the pressure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I think our birds just don't get hunted nearly as hard. And, there's certainly here in New Mexico, there's certainly people that turkey hunt. And there's some very, very good turkey hunters. And I do want to make a point that I am an experienced turkey hunter, but I am not a good turkey hunter by any stretch of the imagination.
Come on, Mike, don't sell yourself short.
No, man, and like back to that confidence thing, a couple seasons ago, I think my wife and I went and hunted the first day and she tagged a bird in the first hour. And then I probably hunted 6, 7, 8 days and did not hear a turkey gobble. And you walk around the woods and you just think like, I must not sound like a turkey. Like I'm seeing turkeys every now and then, but I'm doing something wrong. And then literally on the second to last day of the season, I was hunting with a friend and we killed 2 in an hour and a half. Just like flip the switch. And then you're like, oh man, tomorrow is going to be on fire and we didn't hear a bird the last day. It's just,
Mike, I would have to tell you, Mike, if you haven't experienced that as a turkey hunter, then I don't really know if you're actually turkey hunting. Like, there's so many times that I go out and I don't hear a thing, and I go from place to place to place, and you can't strike up anything, and then your buddy calls and it's like, oh, I had 15 of them going, and it's like,
right.
I don't know where you're hunting, but
And I think that's one of those things that if somebody's trying to get into this, you can go out there and feel like, you can go out and spend a weekend and be like, I don't know, I'm no good at this. I could never get one of these things. It's not going to happen. And all it takes is that one bird that's actually interested. And then once you start to hear them and start to interact with them a little bit, I think it kind of comes. So that's one of the things I try to tell people is like, don't get discouraged. I know some people that are really good at this that have dry spells where they go a week and basically don't hear anything. I
didn't even kill a bird last year.
Yeah.
And the year before that, I think I called in 5, killed 2 on my own.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Adam, because
you have that.
It's just one of those realities that I think a lot of new turkey hunters don't quite get. That it can be really hard. It can be really easy. I mean, you can step out of the truck and and get one an hour into the first day, but that's not normal. Like that doesn't usually happen.
Well, and I think honestly that's why like you have these guys that say, like, my wife's called, she's like, you're obsessed with this. And it's like, I probably am,
Yeah.
because I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm out before daylight and I'm there and I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. I can't even, I'm barely functioning, and that turkey gobbles and I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm in the game, and you have days where you don't get anything. I would definitely say, if you're new into getting into turkey hunting, go with someone who has some experience if you can, if they'll let you. Go with them and just watch how things go down and how it happens. Because I mean, even Jeremy and I, we've hunted together for years now, and I think one hunt we went on, we walked we walked all over Pennsylvania calling, and finally struck up a bird, at 11 o'clock or something. It was like 11:30. It was on your buddy's property, Jeremy, not too far from us. You had permission to be there, and we were walking down this trail, and I know this bird could hear us for a long ways, and we're just walking and calling, walking and calling, walking and calling, and boom, he gobbles. We sat down. He's on top of us before you realize it, and it happened to be just a little Jake, and we let him go. But he was gobbling like he was a gobbler, and literally, I think that much excitement is the reason why I stay out until noon. I'm up at 4. It's because you don't know. At any second, you could fire one up and it's game time. And
Right.
like you said, sometimes you have these hunts where you walk in the woods and you can't do anything wrong. They just show up. They're on your lap. They come in strutting the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, put on a show. And you have other hunts that you can't do anything right.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to what I was going to say about, you were talking about the pressure. A goblin turkey where we live, there's going to be 5 guys on top of it ready to shoot this thing. The one that doesn't gobble near as much, he's going to be living his best life for a while. And I think that happens too. We get a lot of birds that are hammering and gobbling, and if they're anywhere near public land or someone has permission to be in there, where I live, they know, like, they're going to be there after this bird. There's a lot of turkey hunters where we live.
Yeah, and that, I think, is maybe one of those big east-west differences, including where I was in Kentucky. One, if you're hunting a small parcel, like if you do have access to private land, I feel like you hunt a little different, right? You don't run all over it. Is that fair?
Yep, I agree with that for sure. Yep.
But if you're hunting, big woods in north central Pennsylvania, or, out here, you can spend a lot more time, hoofing it. But still there, like you're saying, in Pennsylvania, those places aren't so big that you're really getting away from people. I mean, there's still people almost everywhere. And so I think, one, patience pays off more there because the birds are quieter, right? Because there is so much pressure that they're just not quite as prone to gobble, and 2, if other people are running around, like, sometimes, being in a good spot is kind of the best thing you can do. It doesn't mean you're not out there hiking all over the place, but if there's a lot of pressure, just getting in a good spot and sitting it out can be a way to do it. Here, I feel like, Montana, New Mexico, and the place I've hunted out west in Wyoming and some other places, South Dakota, you can kind of just roll, just keep moving until you find a bird. So
yeah, I was literally just hunting whitetail on a ranch in South Dakota, and the fellow that we were out there, he owned the ranch. He owned 6,000 acres, on his ranch. That was his ranch. And he honestly did not care about hunting too much at all. And, he was a cattle rancher, and he had 6,000 acres because he's a cattle rancher, and that was handed down and passed on from generation to generation. And that's what they do. That's their life. Their land is for their income, and so a lot of these people, even though they have 6,000 acres, which I would give my left arm for, they're not hunting those spots. But he was absolutely overfilled with turkeys, but no one's getting on his property to hunt it unless they're paying, coming out to specifically hunt turkeys. And those birds were everywhere. I was just like in my glory, and I was even deer hunting, and I'm just watching these birds fly up in the roost, and it was awesome. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I should come back here in turkey. And I told him, he's like, yeah, sure, this is a turkey, whatever, go shoot one, But it's that too. You have so much people out west. People have big tracts of land, and they're not getting the random people. And I have little parcels where we live. You might have 30 acres, and the guy next door to you owns 30 acres. Well, you get close to his 30 acres, and you call the turkeys over, and you try to shoot one, but he's on his 30 acres. Just a lot of
Right.
pressure
Yep. Different game for sure.
for
Uh,
100%.
you kind of mentioned, Adam, about time and time of day a little bit, and you didn't. I guess I'm curious about that. How 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 do you guys think time of day affects one what you do and how the birds respond?
So, I mean, this kind of goes back to um, the trusting yourself and kind of getting the confidence. There was a time where I didn't even hunt past 8 o'clock because I felt like the birds at some point were just done and I'm wasting my time, and trying to go out there just because. Usually in the morning, first thing, the birds are fired up. It's like any bird that you hear, not just turkeys, but in the morning when spring's hitting, all the birds they're talking, they're chirping, they're making tons of noise, they're waking up in the morning, they're getting ready to go out and get something to eat. Life is happening. That's when you're out there, you're hearing all these birds, they're gobbling from the roost, they're getting ready to get down, they're excited about the day. So first thing in the morning, it's always like, oh man, this is great because you're hearing all this stuff. And then as the woods, wake up, as the day goes on, the birds kind of quiet down. They're doing their own thing. Same thing with turkeys. And there was a time where I just didn't really hunt a whole lot. And honestly, until I started hunting with our guys from Mountain Hollow, and they were out all day long as long as they could. If it was there, if hunting ended at noon, we're here until 11:59. We strike the last call and then we walk out of the woods. And doing that and actually gaining the confidence, I realized that a lot of these turkeys fire back up at 10 o'clock. Sometimes you find a lone bird where the hens have decided, hey, I'm going to go off and do my thing, whether it's I'm gonna go sit on my nest and my eggs, go lay an egg, whatever it is that they're doing. Now this bird's alone and he's looking for a friend, and you throw out a call and he fires up. It's like now I've actually had a lot of success after 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And yeah, in the morning it's like, oh man, even right up till noon. I've had really good success nowadays because I stick it out and I go and make it happen. And once you build that confidence of even that, the calls, then you're more apt to just do it. And that's why I have no problem hunting until noon nowadays.
Yeah. And you mentioned noon. Pennsylvania's got some time restrictions. I've not lived in another state that has afternoon closures. Pennsylvania's got it. Does New York do that as well?
Yep, New York does it. I
They
think
do.
Ohio
And
is like 1 o'clock or something like that.
right, and now Pennsylvania, half the season you can hunt all day,
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought I remembered
like
they
towards the
changed
end of
something.
the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think that does trip people up. I mean, if you're hunting a new area, like if you guys, if I told you, hey, here's a point on a map, come to New Mexico, go here. If you're in that situation, I think being out there at first light is invaluable, right? Because that's when you're most likely to have turkeys actually gobbling.
Yeah, 100%. What I was going to kind of add to what Adam was saying, Mike, is I think what people, if you're going to get into turkey hunting, I think people should take the time to really understand, turkey and deer are very similar in a sense that there's a certain time of the year where they breed and are active in, the spring in the morning, right off the roost is truly the only time of the day where, they just slept all night. And when they wake up in the morning, they're going to look for each other and they're going to figure out where each other are. So at that point, you can kind of interject yourself in there, if you're able to walk in the woods and get in on the roost tree and be quiet about it and be part of that conversation. Once they hit the ground and it's daylight and they're together, there's an understanding there that, they might seem like they disappear. And like Adam said, it might be a couple hours before that turkey that only has went 100 yards from where he roosted at 9 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time he's still there. He hasn't gone too far. They're not covering large distances like a buck in the rut looking for a hot doe.
Right.
A lot of times they have what they're looking for. right there with them. So, there's a lot of information out there on how turkeys do what they do, and you can, that's probably half the battle is trying to understand what their day looks like more than trying to be a professional turkey caller.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, the places that I hunt most are 2 hours from my house here. I live in Santa Fe and hunt up north a bunch. And I feel like I can drop my kids off at the bus for school in the morning, drive those 2 hours, and still get there for the time when I'm most likely to actually kill a turkey.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like that 9:30, 10 o'clock is, you don't hear nearly as many birds, but the birds you hear, you're much more likely to have success with. Is that's been my experience.
Yep.
And so I think,
and I get. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Adam, I was just like you, for many years of turkey hunting. By 7:30, 7:45, I'm like, well, turkey gobbled 200 times on the roost, flew down, gobbled twice, vanished. Guess I'll go get breakfast. And that's probably the time you should take a nap. About 7 o'clock, you may as well, try to get a nap in from 7 to 9 and hang out. Because I think, like you're saying, Jeremy, maybe here they go a little farther. I mean, some of these birds will travel big loops, with the hens and everything, but they're probably going to come back around sometime later in the morning, and that's, like you're saying, they're social critters, and they want to find other birds, and if the hens leave them, the flock breaks up late in the morning, they're going to go look for a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And getting a bird to gobble like at 10 o'clock, I think is more exciting to me than to have one gobble off the roost, because that bird at 10 o'clock, if he answers you, you're kind of in the game. You're this is go time. Like, if I can get one to sound off at 10 o'clock, there's probably at least a 50%, 60% chance that we're going to see it and get a shot at it,
Yeah.
Because that bird's he's been lonely. He's lonely now, and he wants a friend, and that's why you want to stick it out. And like you said, you're not going to get near as many as you normally would after the morning in the roost, but you're might find that one who wants to break away and from all the other groups, and he hears that hen, and next thing you know, he's like, okay, I'm going to go after her. And I think too, one thing that new people who are turkey hunting in the wild, the gobbler is so loud because usually the hens go to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he gobbles and the whole world knows he's there within, 200-300 yards. So all the hens that are around that area, if they're looking to breed and lay an egg, that gobbler hammers on, he gobbles, they're going to go to him. You're trying to trick that bird to come to you, in a sense. So that plays a big part in it too. And if you can find one after, 9, 10 o'clock that's willing to play, he's more than likely to come to you, more so than a lot of birds in the morning, if they have hens with them for sure.
Yeah, and do you guys find too, sometimes you'll hear a hen call, and, I think it would be easy to just be like, hen out there yelping or whatever, but I mess with them as much as I can, and I've killed a handful of birds now where for 10 or 15 minutes, it's just me and a hen squawking back and forth with each other, and maybe she's coming, and then before you know it, either a tom from somewhere else runs in, or she's actually got a tom with her, and he never does gobble or doesn't gobble until they're really starting to come and get close.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Like, if they're out there in the spring breeding, so it takes a male and a female turkey to make that happen. And if you get a hen, I mean, the odds are they're together. There's, whether that's 3 hens and a jake. I mean, you have no idea what the ratio is, but
right.
Odds are there's a female and a male is not too far away, and that's how that works. That's to your point.
Worst case scenario, you end up calling a hen into your lap.
Right.
It's fun to just see turkeys.
Yep, for sure. And that's I mentioned a little bit ago about understanding how the cycle works. If you went out, we're talking Pennsylvania here, just because that's where we're at. But if your season starts in April, Mike, and ours starts in May, if you were to go out in daylight savings time. So the daylight hours is a big trigger point, in my opinion, for turkey breeding. Like, when does it start? Well,
Mm-hmm.
you get longer daylight hours. Hens sit on their nest longer before they can go to roost. The more time that a hen can spend on the nest, the more likely she is to lay eggs. So as you go from March, April, May to June, you have increased breeding activity, and then your peak turkey breeding, peak rut for deer. Then you go the other way. You start going, and when you hit that, when you're on the way up and you're on the way down, you can find some really cool things that are happening there. You can find a tom that's looking on both sides of the spectrum. And the cool thing is, when you get into that middle of May, end of May time frame, a lot of times, there's less competition from the real hen, and that's when you can really, if you can run into a situation like that, the odds are in your favor for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip that, if you go out and hunt the opening weekend and don't kill one, that's a bad time to get discouraged because,
Yes,
I always
absolutely.
say, like, we hunt the opening day here. Usually it always opens on April 15th for us. And we'll hunt opening day because I don't know, every now and then we just get a little bit of magic and, you want a turkey hunt. You're excited to go out.
Yep. Yep.
I don't get excited about turkey hunting after that until I get into the second half of the season. I would rather hunt starting in May. Our season goes to the middle of May.
Yep.
I'd really rather hunt those last 2 weeks than I would the first 2 weeks. I think you're more likely to find toms that are broken off from their flocks. Like you're saying, you're kind of past the peak of the turkey rut, whatever you want to call it. And it just seems like it's easier. The birds you do strike are more likely to come.
Yeah, I mean, and Adam, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but look, game wardens, contrary to popular belief, the game commission knows what they're doing. So a lot of times, the opening day is like, breeding is already happening. They're not gonna, if you wanted to kill turkeys or deer, I mean, not so much deer, but if we could hunt turkeys in early April in Pennsylvania, it would be a lot easier. Like that's, there's a conservation side of that where, you don't want to kill them all, and you
Yeah.
want to that's why you got to stop hunting at noon for all those years, because when hens go to nest, they don't want you to bother them. So a lot of times that opening day, it does not indicate the beginning of turkey breeding.
Right.
That's not how it works, in my opinion. That beginning of turkey breeding, you don't get to hunt that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so to your point, yes,
I think
a lot
that's why the junior hunt is so good where we live, because
Yep.
it's
yes,
that last weekend or the first weekend before everyone else can get out in the woods and hunt, and you're catching like that the end of that peak time, and no one's really disturbed them, no one's bothered them, and I think that they were smart in doing that so that the junior hunters who, like, even for my kids, like, we go out and you just hear birds everywhere gobbling, and they just think that that's awesome. It's a great opportunity to try to get a little one, a bird, or at least get them hearing the birds, because they're in almost full go time mode.
Yeah. So I got a question for both of you. Two-parter. Where's the place that you've hunted that you're dying to get back to, and where's somewhere you haven't hunted yet that you'd really like to?
You want to go first, Adam?
Sure. So dying to get back to, honestly, Jeremy knows this. I have my uncle-in-law. He's like my uncle-in-law. He's my wife's uncle, but he has a place that is just stupid loaded with turkeys, and the birds gobble every day. You're guaranteed to hear them, and they got a lot of pressure. I just don't know. I don't know why, but they're always talking. And part of the reason last year I probably didn't get one is because I was so fixated on trying to get a bird there, because I knew if I went there, I would hear them gobble. And I've literally only have ever killed one bird off of that property. And there are so many hens and so many gobblers. And Jeremy, he knows. I talk to him. We call each other every day. And I'm like, dude, he's like, you're back at your uncle's, right? And I'm like, yeah. And birds, I just love being over there because there's so much action, right? So that's one thing I love getting there. And this is a two-parter as well. But where Ken lives in New York, just hunting with those guys up there, that is awesome as well. And I always look forward to trying to get back there into northern New York. It's just that it's 7 hours away and it's a long haul to go, on a weekend or something like that to hunt turkeys. But I always love getting back up to northern New York with Ken and the boys up there. There's always a group of guys hunting out of his house, and that's always awesome. But to go somewhere and hunt, I haven't actually. I want to go west and shoot a Merriam. I haven't shot a Merriam yet. Haven't really been out. I'm a teacher by trade, so we don't get a whole lot of time off. When like Jeremy, his job's a little different, obviously, and he can schedule some vacation days in. They don't look, when you got June, July, and August off, they don't really like you to have vacation time. So I missed out a lot on that, with my career choice. So unfortunately, someday I'd like to go west and shoot a Merriam.
Well, I'll pick it up from there, Mike. So my dream hunt is right there, right here behind me. That was a Colorado Merriam, and that was something that we did a couple years ago. And I told Ken and Mark, we're pretty flexible as far as who shoots first or whatever. And I told Mark, I said, look, I want to go to Colorado. I want to shoot Merriam, and I want to be the first one to carry the gun. So that was awesome, to do that. Colorado was really cool. It was the first time hunting like the big mountains. We say we have the Pennsylvania mountains around here, but I call them hills now because they're not mountains. So
there's some hills here.
Yeah,
West,
for sure. And Merriam's, I love going out west because it's really not because the turkey hunting is easier, I guess, if you will, but the scenery is incredible. It's amazing out there, and I grew up on the East Coast and never left. And my first time in Colorado, I've been to Oregon, California, and Montana since, and I'm looking forward to going to the state of Washington and Idaho next year. So I love going out there. I love seeing all that.
Yeah. And you guys, Jeremy, you've hunted Osceolas in Florida?
This year's going to be the first time, yeah.
You're going down there, too.
Yep, we're going to try to complete the slam this spring, and fortunately for me, we are going guided. I'm a little chicken. I can't do snakes, spiders, and alligators. I'm not going to lie. I want to get in and get out and come back to Pennsylvania, and I hope that's how that happens. I hate to be that way, but that's what I'm hoping for.
One of the good things about where I hunt in New Mexico, no bugs, no snakes in the spring, so.
Good. I'm coming to visit you, Mike. That's right up my alley.
Yeah, well, right on. I hope you guys will come out and hunt New Mexico sometime. There's, I'd like to think, I know for a fact that our green chili is better in New Mexico than it is in Colorado, and I'd like to think that our turkey hunting is too. I don't know, but definitely there's good public land turkey hunting here.
Yep, for sure.
Unique place.
If we come out there, Mike, you're gonna have to be prepared to put in the hours because we don't give up too easily.
There's a lot of dirt. There's a lot of trails. There's a lot of mountains here. There's a lot of places to point somebody and be like, "Let's go over there, walk down that logging road until you're tired, and then turn around and start walking back."
We've been told that before, and you just take off. We go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is, I think one of the things about hunting here is there's so much country, that it's just, even the places I hunt a lot, I feel like I've hardly scratched the surface because you find some birds and, you end up keep going back to the same areas. And then every time I walk over the next ridge, I'm like, oh, this is nice over here too. And now there's one down there in the valley gobbling here. So, of course, you keep getting farther and farther from the truck, but that's all right. Well, guys, thanks a million for doing this. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Oh, I know one I wanted to mention for you is I have in the last couple of weeks I watched all the new YouTube videos. Why don't you plug that, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, awesome. So we are trying to grow the YouTube channel. We've been doing that for a couple of years, and I tell the guys now, like, that's kind of one of the things that I really want to do. And it's called Mountain Hollow Game Calls, the name of the company. We actually just started a series called The Hollow Ground. Something we want to do with the Hollow Ground is show the days where you don't kill stuff. So our turkey season wasn't a whole lot different in that regard, where we basically just showed a lot of our successful hunts from last year. But as we get going on through the summer and into the fall, you're going to kind of see like a lot of the story behind the hunts. You know, the efforts put in, the scouting, the preparation, the days you sit there and don't see anything, all that stuff. So we're really excited about it. And we have a guy, Uriah Baldwin, went to Africa and hunted. So we got a couple African shows, which are really cool, just because you don't ever see it. And then Ken has, I think, 3 bear hunts, 2 or 3 bear hunts coming out here in like the May, June time frame. So would love it if people would subscribe. Tell them to subscribe, Mike. Bug them like crazy. Tell them to hit that button. YouTube is tough, man. It is hard to get subscribers. Holy cow.
It really is.
It's a battle, but creating the content is a lot of fun. So we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Right on. No, it's really cool. And through that, I saw you guys have a relationship with a partner called the One Wish Foundation, right?
Yeah, so we have a guy, Mark Brubaker, is heavily involved in that. And going back a couple years, in the last 3 years, I think, maybe 4, we've taken some terminally ill kids and kids that, you know, had some sickness. And we just had one, actually 2 kids that we've taken just passed away. One a few years back and one just this past year. So we really try to get involved, and you know, they ask these kids what they want to do, and if it's turkey hunting or deer hunting, we try to be involved in that. So it really hits home, you know, and they're not around to do it anymore, you know. So it's a different dynamic for sure, and something that we're really passionate about.
Yeah, it's an admirable organization and an admirable thing that you guys are part of it. I commend you on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, guys, one last thing. If it's all right, I'm going to start calling Mountain Hollow Game Calls the official game calls of the Outdoor Rule Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
All right. All right.
I'm going to put you guys up as a partner on our webpage, so our dozens of listeners will...
Mike, why don't you let me know you're going to reap the benefits here. I hope your family doesn't get mad, but shoot me a text or an email or let me know what you want. I'll get it to you in the mail. Just shoot me your address, and we'll send you a few things.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Tell your brother if he wouldn't have been sick, he probably would have gotten it too. You never.
Not only will I tell him, I will rub it in.
wait till it comes in the mail and send it to him.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, guys.
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And thanks everybody for listening. As always, you can find all of our content on our website, www.outdoorrules.com. We're on Instagram @OutdoorRules. Find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. We're going to get this episode up as a video podcast, so looking forward to that. Jeremy, one more time, what's the website for Mountain Hollow?
It's mountainhollowgamecalls.com, YouTube channel, and Facebook, or Mountain Hollow Game Calls, so check us out.
All right. I hope we see you guys out here in New Mexico soon.
I hope so, too. We'll hit you up for sure. Thanks, Mike.
100%.
Thank you, guys.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor Rules.